be true, be honest, a good report. God is not a schizophrenic. He's not bipolar. He is the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you want to know who God is, read in Shemos in Exodus when Moshe encountered God in the fiery bush. Welcome to the ben-Emmett YouTube channel. The Inconvenient Truth. I'm the kind of Jew that talks about the elephant in the room, right? That people don't like to talk about because it's not politically correct. I am the most politically incorrect person in existence, right? Yes, that doesn't mean I'm hurtful or rude or hateful. I don't intend to be that way. If I'm ever say anything that is wrong, you call me out and I will personally apologize to you. So I'm just setting the stage straight. Good day and thank you for coming to my library. This is my Torah library. I have books, 23 volumes of the Zohar, Kabbalah. Believe it or not, a very rare find. In 2003, I believe, the edition was the first of its type that was translated word for word, as much as you can, from Aramaic to English. A wonderful treasure store of information. I am accumulating several different tractates of the Talmud. I have everything to do with Shabbat in the back here. These books here are wonderful books on Hanukkah for Shabbat. But anyway, where I'm going is the title of this Torah edition. There's a new word here. You may have not heard of it. Is Zoroastrianism. What is Zoroastrianism and Christianity have in common? You may have not heard of that word before, okay? It's a word I've heard in academia and intellectual circles and things like that. I've actually had formal courses in cults and Eastern religions and things of that nature. But essentially it's dualism, okay? That might ring a bell, dualism. So I'm reading a book here, and this is a nice expose on the Zohar. It's the highlights of the Zohar. There's a lot of interest in Kabbalah these days, probably more today than before. And unfortunately, people go to bad situations when they mistake the Zohar, the Kabbalah, out of context. You heard of tarot cards, you heard of magic and New Age movement, Eastern mysticism, all these things. You can really go in awful places if you're not first firmly rooted, absolutely anchored and rooted to Mount Zion, Mount Moriah, and Mount Sinai, where the Torah was initially given. Anchored in God's Word before you start looking in the atmosphere of things, okay? The Talmud is, first of all, is our oral tradition. I've always spoken about this before. It's our halakha. It's for Jews in the post-temple era, primarily for Jews in the diaspora, okay? That's what we have, okay? It's our mitzvot, talks about that, talks about Jewish history, talks about Jewish lore, legends, things of that nature. That part of the Talmud, our oral tradition, folks, that point directly back to Torah or the prophets of blessed memory in the Tanakh. I want to get that out right now. The Talmud is originally written in Aramaic. That is a sister language to Hebrew. If you can read Hebrew as your native language, you probably can read most of Aramaic, okay? My Ketubah and my Tanaim is written in Aramaic. That's a tradition anyway. The Talmud is taught primarily in yeshiva. It's considered as subjective reasoning, not divine like the Torah. The Zohar is another form of oral tradition. In fact, some of the most famous Kabbalists of old, I've already have a video about Rabbi Yochai, lived in the 2nd century CE. He is actually given credit for instantiating or first documenting Kabbalah as we know it. Kabbalah on the Zohar actually had predated the Garden of Eden, predated Bereshit, predated the beginnings of time. I don't want to get into all that detail. This is not a lesson on Zohar and Kabbalah. Please bear with me. The focal point is that, we all have traditions, right? My 6th great-grandfather, 6th or 7th great-grandfather on my father's side, it was actually a Cherokee Nation chief. And Native Americans, as you know, their tradition, their oral tradition, I mean, spoken more than written down or televised before we had cameras, audio, visual, digital equipment, all this. What are you going to do when you pass things down from father to son to daughter, generation to generation? Grandparents are so instrumental in any society. They pass down all these rich traditions. You know, like Native Americans, you know, they can tell you stories that go back 1,000 years. Literally, they can. And a lot of it's folklore and a lot of it's legend. But every part of a myth or legend, there's a little bit of truth there. So you have to listen to all the legends and all the mythology, all the mythological things to get little bits of truth there, okay? Because believe it or not, in all the noise and all the minutia, Hashem is speaking. He said, do you hear me? Like the old Verizon commercial. Do you hear me? God is always speaking to us. And He actually uses the various medium that we have in the 21st century. God may be hidden from a myth supernaturally, but we can enjoy a supernatural experience with Shem if we anchor ourselves in the Torah. That's where I'm going. So what does that what I've just told you, what does it have to do with the topic for tonight? First of all, it's the 28th of Av, the year of 5780. I love the Hebrew calendar, don't you? I was looking up at the crescent moon a few mornings ago, and I was remembering, oh, this month is wrapping up. We're getting the month of Elul, Rosh Chodesh. That's a wonderful time. The head of the month is always a nice time to celebrate. It goes back in agricultural things, you know. It's like a temporary reset in our life and all of this. And it happens to coincide with a Shabbat too. So that's extra sweet and wonderful. So dualism and Christianity, what does it have in common? First of all, what is it? Let's define the terms, okay? Zoroastrianism actually goes back to 5th century BCE, okay? That is 2,500 years ago. Where in the world were Jews back in this time? You can probably think of Daniel, the prophet Daniel, blessed memory. Daniel actually and Ezekiel were contemporaries, or different. The river of Chabar, I believe, in Babylon, along the Euphrates, in that area there. Ezekiel was there. Daniel was on the other side of the province. So this was a time of transitional point between Nebuchadnezzar II, who was responsible for the great exile of Jews from Judea around 596 BCE, when the King Solomon temple was burned down. Then after the Babylonian era ended promptly, Daniel was alive during this time. He was a great administrator, well known, like a VIP kind of person. Next to the king, you know, like Nehemiah was like a cupbearer to King Cyrus. But anyway, so you had a transition point between Babylonian Empire and the Persian Empire. That's where we are here. So Zoroastrianism, if I get the name correct, is dualism. So the words are interoperable, they go together. So what we're talking about is a philosophical way of belief. The worldview of Persians during that time, that's when it actually was started. Listen, every kingdom that conquers another kingdom, they borrow the gods, the belief systems, and they carry it over. Even Roman Empire took gods from Persia and gods from Babylon. Sumerians, even before that, gods of Assyria and other things like this, they reincorporated, rebranded them as their own. That's just how it works. And here we are today, and we're discussing oral tradition. Even Jewish oral tradition has a data source going back to this time in 5th century BCE. So the philosophical construct is about dualism, Zoroastrianism. It actually talks about there is an epic conflict between good and evil, between heaven and earth, essentially. A good God, evil gods, multiple gods, polytheism, okay? You hear about Lucifer and Satan, the adversary, fighting against God, struggling for the throne of God. All this great struggle in Shamayim, and God and his angels, third of heaven, third of angels, were kicked out of heaven because they sided with Lucifer. This is the Christian belief, okay? You can read about this throughout the New Testament. I'm not going to regurgitate this. But anyway, the stories of angels and demons rebelling against God and all that, it is epic as the beginnings of Zoroastrianism or dualism going back to 5th century BCE. Yes, that's where it originated. So if you look in the Zohar and Kabbalah, you see a lot of those underpinnings, the belief system. You hear about the evil eye. Watch out for the evil eye. In other words, when I was so excited when I found out my wife was pregnant with my daughter Elior, I wanted to tell the world, but my wife said, wait. So we waited at least 3 months before we started letting people know we knew there was a healthy fetus and all this. The evil eye is if you tell people in advance before you actually have a live birth of a child, it could hurt someone's self-esteem. There's a lot of mothers struggling your wife may be blessed with a baby to come, unborn child, but another woman may be struggling to have a child and just has not become pregnant yet, not in the family way yet. So the evil eye is that depression or disposition, melancholy or whatever that can happen, bad feelings, no real evil intent here, malcontent or whatever, but that's what that evil eye thing comes from. It's this mystical, Kabbalistic thing. Watch out for the evil eye, okay? We have, the so-called horseshoe. You see it on some barns in the South, whatever. It's good luck, rabbit's foot. All these things are traditional mysticism. Back in the Middle Ages, it was really big there, okay? How would you explain bubonic plague other than blaming the Jews for it in England? How would you explain a woman losing all of her children? They just all died. How do you explain these things? How do you explain a total eclipse of the sun back in the Iron Age? It really made people afraid. You can read about the prophet of Jonah went to Nineveh. God used a total solar eclipse to get the people in Nineveh's attention. I always talk about Native Americans that their belief system, before we understood science as we do, empirical, quantitative science as we do, the scientific method, Darwin's theory of evolution, all the theories of Einstein, EMC2, the Einstein theory of relativity, all of these things, before we could prove the existence of quantum singularities and black holes. Listen, we didn't even know where bacteria came from, microbiology. You may have been told that you came from the Cabbage Patch or the stork brought you. All these things. People used to take pictures of the dead, believe it or not. Yes, all these things. People had seances. They had clairvoyant people, crystal balls, reaching out to the nether regions of the world, a twilight zone of the dead, and trying to talk to the dead and trying to get advice. Where did you put the will before you passed away? All of this stuff. Stories in Prague about a golem, about a rabbi who actually formed a golem out of the earth, and through some magical incantation, whatever, got a book of the same book that was used in creation to create Adam. Adam, the first man, was a golem until God breathed in his neshama and made him an animated human being. So all these things are very interesting and flavorful and things like that. You probably heard Grimm's fairy tales and all of this. But I want to read you something to you real quick before I get too long-winded. Kabbalah teaches that two parallel universes are available. You heard about quantum mechanics. It's actually scientific in some respect. The first is the realm of the tree of knowledge. Okay, stay with me. Introduced in the book of Bereshit, or Genesis, into which we enter the result of Adam's sin. Okay, remember, Havilah or Eve was the first to taste of the fruit of the tree, but not an apple tree. The serpent tempted her to do that. Then Adam joined in, and then there was sin, and they had to be expelled, because once they partook of the tree of knowledge, and if they ate of the tree of life, they would live forever and be as God. Okay, this is where Mormonism gets that belief system from, believe it or not. So, which is only Kabbalah And the Zohar clearly defined the tree of knowledge. The domain of the tree of life is a realm free of pain and suffering. So we, as Jews, or just Gentiles in general, we always want to get back to the tree of life, the tree of knowledge. We want to get back to these things. What happened to the Garden of Eden, okay? What happened to the Ark of the Covenant? Yeah, same place probably. But anyway, this is a form of alternate reality that we know is there, but it's not quite there, okay? So when we connect to this reality, we leave the familiar chaotic landscape of this world reality, the world system, in which seemingly insurmountable problems of life surround us. And it can be done. Like Moshe told the children of Israel, it seems unsurmountable task before you in the land of Canaan, but you can do this. You can keep the covenants of God has given me to give to you. You can keep the 613 mitzvahs, the 10 commandments. You can abide by these covenants, agreements. You can do it. This is the same thing. We can be a tzaddik. We can be a mensch. We can be a righteous individual. It doesn't matter what happened in the past is what you do in your life today. Very positive, right? So back to dualism and all this. I just read you something from the Zohar, okay? Does that sound incredulous or crazy or radical occultic? What I'm trying to point out in Kabbalah and Zohar, you have a lot of Jewish history. Like I'm from Berber tribal people in Morocco. There were Moroccan Jews in there, and there's a lot of history about my ancestry in these books. So it's very interesting. I don't believe everything I read in there. Okay, I don't worship angels. I don't summon demons. I don't open up portals to other dimensions. I don't partake in seances. Even though in the medieval age of Earth's history, a lot of that was going on. Okay, we are not to call out an angel by name. We are not to worship angels. Okay, there's a story of Shimshon or Samson. You know, his parents were elderly. They're about my age. And they were childless, but an angel of the Lord came in the altar. They were sacrificing burnt offering, and that angel came and announced, "You will have a son." And they said, "Please tell us your name. We want to thank you. We want to give you." He said, "My name is not important. What is important is the name of God, Yehovah Elohim Ha-Emet." Zoroastrianism, what it talks about is this epic conflict and chaos in heaven. I want to assure you right now, folks, there's no chaos in Shamanim. There's chaos here on this earth. Okay? Tower of Babel. You know, this pandemic ongoing, wars. How many wars have we had? How many wars will we have in the future before it's all over and we have peace and Tikkun Olam and Mashiach establishes an eternal kingdom in Jerusalem and the new temple and Ezekiel's blueprints are actually implemented correctly and we're all worshiping God. Every Jew and Gentile will be worshiping God in those days. Blessed. May the Mashiach come quickly. We want to get back to that tree of knowledge. We want to get back to the tree of life. We want to get to that place. So we have interests, even when you may not be religious, but we read all kinds of books. We read self-help books. We learn how to battle cancer homeopathically, depression. We don't want to take pills all the time. We want to try to live healthy. We want to diet, lose weight, help with cholesterol and all this. But everything physical in your life has a spiritual underpinning. And that's what Kabbalah talks about. Kabbalah, Zohar, got a lot of its information, wrongly, got it from Zoroastrianism. Christianity got even more of that information from Persian dualism. Where am I going is, there's no Lucifer. There is no archangel struggle with Gabriel and Michael called Lucifer. There's no conflict with God's throne. God's rule in heaven is absolute. Baruch Hashem. I could not put my faith and trust in one true God. I will be looking for the gods of the stars and the moon and the sun and harvest and fertility and all this stuff if I did not know that God is consistent and anchored as one entity. Okay? There's no struggle in heaven. There's struggle in my life. When I live in that 50 shades of gray, I already talked about this. Christianity took some of its data sources from the Torah, from the Tanakh, the major and minor prophets, the sacred writings, our Jewish Bible, but they grossly took out of context. They even, when they translated the Old Testament, you know, from Greek to Latin and English and all the many languages and variants, New King James Version, New Revised Version, Living Bible, American Standard Version, all these different, you know, Mormons have their own Bible, Jehovah's Witnesses have their own Bible. The Quran is the Bible of choice for Muslims. That is based a lot on my Bible. The Christian Bible is based a lot on my Bible too. But they deviate in a huge tangent there. Because, listen, Roman Catholicism took over the fledgling Christian church in Jerusalem the 1st and 2nd century. They were deemed as heretical by Paul. Roman Catholic Church listened to the Pauline epistle. They made decisions based on that, okay? So they incorporated things like Mary is a mother of the universe, okay? You have to pray to Mary for good luck, for blessings, all this. You have to pray to the priest. You have to have a Catholic mass to have your sins forgiven, to baptize the dead. The Mormons do this too. A lot of these things come from this mystical thing here. You have a crucifix, you have rosary beads, you put your faith and trust in it, you put these things, layer these things upon the image of God, which is absolute idolatry. I don't want to get there too much. But dualism and Christianity has more in common than my Jewish Bible. Okay? I already told you, not everything in the Talmud, not everything in the Zohar, and all these volumes of oral tradition is divine. Only if it directly references prophets in my Jewish Bible, in the Torah, or any of the other prophets in the Tanakh, the entire compilation of Jewish Bible, is it divine at that time. There are some divine references, like in the book of Psalms, Tehillim, King David, in the New Testament. But there's a lot of things that are twisted 180 degrees out of phase, out of alignment, and broken away into a new thing called progressive revelations, okay? So if it doesn't retrofit in the model and the Christology you want to say as a missionary, or you want to preach or evangelize or whatever, this is how cults form, people. They leave, they said, okay, the Jewish Bible is the Old Testament. It's not that important anymore, okay? We are the new Jewish people. We are the churches of placed Israel. You know, they rejected the Messiah. We accepted the Messiah, so we are blessed and they're cursed. That alone, folks, 400 and something passages in the New Testament is anti-Semitic. This is what Martin Luther read verbatim and used that against the Jewish people. That's why the Roman Catholic Church commissioned crusaders to go to Jerusalem and kill the Christ killers, to murder Jews and butcher Jews and expel them from Spain. Don't want to go there. But be careful with this dualism thing. Be careful with Zoroastrianism, okay? Because it is evil, it is wrong. The adversary in truth exists. You can read the book of Job. The adversary is not just one entity, but represents a legion of adversarial angels that are assigned by God for a specific purpose. What is that purpose? To prosecute humanity for virtue. That's the whole thing about the book of Job. If you read it in context, you understand that Satan, the deceiver, adversary, whatever you want to call him, cannot do anything more or less than what Hashem has told him to do. Angel in Hebrew is malach. That means messenger, folks. That's all it is. They don't have a neshama. They don't have a soul. They don't have a free will of choice. They have a little bit of autonomy, just enough to make independent decisions at some level strategically. That's not so much in the Torah for me to contemplate more than that. But as far as them going out and forming legions and battalions and fighting against angels in heaven and earth and that struggle and all that, I know you read about Daniel, about Michael doing battle with the prince of Persia. Who was that? Okay, it was a king there, okay? And Esau had an angelic entity over him, and because he was a nation, okay? The nation warring in the belly, of Rebecca. You read all of this, okay? So what I'm saying is that there may be angels that reside over kingdoms even to this day, but they're part of the adversary. Now, we have angels of God that are doing different tasks on earth. You can read about Jacob's ladder going up and down and all of this. Yes, there are angels on earth, and I believe there are guardian angels and things like that. Okay, there's books on angels in Christian bookstore that get in all kinds of horrible things about worshiping and having statues of angels and all this. It's strict adultery, and it's Zoroastrianism, okay? There's no conflict in heaven, okay? Everything is peaceful, it's shalom. If we want that shalom here on this earth, like that tree of knowledge, want to get back to where Adam and Havilah left off before they were kicked out of Eden, then we need to return to the Torah. We need to pick and choose those things that are blessed and true and honest and good report from our oral tradition in the Talmud and the Zohar too, if you're at my age at least, and if you're schooled in the Torah and you're anchored in God's truth before you go out and get a deck of tarot cards, okay? That's all I'm saying. Listen, be very careful. If you're a Christian, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to make you feel that I don't love you. I love all of you. I love Muslims. I love Buddhists. I love Christians. I love Noahides, are those people that feel Jewish inside but don't want to take the last step to convert to Judaism. Where I'm saying is, folks, I'm with you. I want to teach you truth from fiction, okay? I will never intentionally lie to you. I may get it wrong and I apologize. I put notes and things on dates and stuff, okay? I'm 55, okay? I don't remember things like I did in college and 20s, okay? So what, okay? Okay? But I'm telling you, back in the 5th century BCE is where all this demon warfare, demology, and all this stuff had its root. That's where it began. It's declined over the years, but that's where it is. It's persistent throughout the New Testament, okay? The book of Revelation about the Antichrist. There's no Antichrist, folks. There's no Antichrist. There's only one Mashiach, and he hasn't come yet, okay? If he did come, I would not be giving this Torah lesson today, okay? The earth would be peace and safety. All the Jews would be in Eretz Israel. We'd have a temple. We have burnt sacrifices. Yes, Mashiach will offer a bullock on behalf of himself for his unintentional sin offering. That's all in Ezekiel chapter 37. You can read all of this, okay? Listen, I know this video is going a little bit longer than intended, but there's a lot of good stuff here. Listen, research this yourself if you don't believe it. Look up dualism. And look at how dualism is compared to Christianity and compared to Judaism. There's some things and more radical elements, and we have crazies in Judaism too. We have crazies, okay? We're human, and to be human is to err, right? Listen, God love you, God bless you. Remember, the adversary, he has been assigned by Hashem to prosecute humanity for virtue. If you don't want chaos in your life, make sure you make virtuous decisions. Give charity. Take care of the orphans, the widows, people, the abused women's shelters. Yeah. Give money to this. Fight abortion, late-term abortion. If you don't believe in abortion, you believe it cancels a potential life, like I do and Ben Shapiro does, then give money to these things. Help out orphanages and all this. That is virtuous. Being faithful to your mate, to your wife, to your husband and wife. Don't beat your wife. And don't look in the Old Testament and say, it gives me right to do that. Okay? It is what it is. There's all kinds of racial animosity going on in this country today, and the Jews are caught in between of that. We are really losing out on so much virtue. We need to get back to the tree of knowledge. We need to get back to that idealistic place in the Garden of Eden where Adam and Havilah left off. Every Shabbat, we have that brief opportunity to feel how it meant for God to be speaking with us in the Garden of Eden when everything was new and fresh. And our marriages were new and fresh too. You know, be married to the Torah. Don't be married to the Roman Catholic Church. Don't be married to the Vatican. Don't be married to what your preacher says be true, because he's a human, okay? Progressive revelations is what cultists do. The Branch Davidian cult, that's what they did, okay? But Jim Jones, you know, the Guyana massacre there are a lot of people said, I'm the Messiah, so that gave them rights to rape women that have multiple children with them, father them, abuse the congregation. A lot of cults end up in suicide pacts. This is progressive revelation. If you don't like what's in the Torah and the Bible, you create your own Bible, okay? And there's been a lot of people that have been guilty of that, okay? Be true, be honest, a good report. God is not a schizophrenic. He's not bipolar. He is a one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. If you want to know who God is, read in Shemos in Exodus when Moshe encountered God in the fire bush. That's where it began. And please go back to the good book, and that's the Torah. That's a Tanakh. That's a Jewish Bible. There's many translations in your own language. Get a word-for-word translation. Oral tradition is fine. It's nice good stories, legend. Who doesn't like a story about a golem? All the mysticism behind that. I wish I could make a golem and whatever and go to work on my behalf or do this video, so I wouldn't be doing this, okay? But anyway, I love you. Take care of yourself. Please consider Zoroastrianism. All these things are Persian mysticism. Unfortunately, it made its way into the church and Roman Catholicism and permanently corrupted it. This is what the triune Godhead comes from. It really is. The Eucharist and all these other things, drinking the blood of the Messiah, eating his flesh and all of this. This is not in the Torah. It's not in the Torah, but it's in your progressive revelations, right? Anyway, take care. If you have any questions, please send me an email to ben-Emmett@gmail.com. Video. Take care. Listen, I'm not right about everything. I never claim to be right at everything. A lot of my sources came from Osh.com, came from my Jewish learning, came from independent research, secular papers, a lot of things written about this. Listen, Google it, Bing it, Yahoo it, or whatever. It's out there. Don't shoot the messenger. I try to keep my opinion to bare minimum, okay? Goodbye. If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.